What are you here now? Why did I come to my house and you're in here?
Because I am under a lot of magic right now.
Say, man,
Welcome to tomorrow.
You must be new here. That's fine. Being new doesn't exclude you. It just takes a little while for you to catch up. I respect that.
Me? Nah.
I don't care if you like me. I don't give a flying shit.
Don't bully me.
You do not have to accept her rejection.
That's where we're at, is big boy time, big boy pants, actual knowing things, understanding the dialectic, the manipulation, the control, transcending it. All right, we'll be right back. We got huge news straight ahead.
Are you just a freak?
Yeah.
How are you able to do this?
Yeah, I'm a freak. I'm just tough as shit, and I believe in myself.
That's real. I mean
God-given talent. Me too. I say if you knew the half, you'd be even more amazed. So.
What the fuck did Puff just say?
hey, I'm the head of the Mossad.
How many of you are having like the biggest mind fuck of your life right now?
Guilty as charged with the story.
There was a conspiracy to get you. I don't know what the CIA had to do. Some of their shenanigans have yet to be told, according to a book I read recently.
Do you remember your President Nixon?
All right, so we're here with Nick. Thanks for letting us do it in person because we had a problem with Zoom yesterday.
Well, glad to have you back in New York City. I mean, I live in Midtown, if you don't mind the smell of urine. It's pretty cool, but it just rains, so that kind of took care of that.
Right. So
you got a Patreon on Puff Daddy.
Good old Puff Daddy. Good old Puff Daddy.
Now, did you look into the dude Fahim? I think his name is his bodyguard.
Yeah. Fahim Mohammed. Yeah. The thing about Fahim was the head of security for Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
So there's a guy that knows how to keep secrets about child abuse. But Michael Jackson was getting all these prescriptions from all these different names. And Fahim Mohammed was one of the people that he was getting prescriptions from, illicit prescriptions. And all those guys, I mean, like there was Jack London and Josephine Baker and names that were fictitious. But there were like Fahim Mohammed, his wife, he was getting prescriptions. So that they went after the doctor. They didn't go after these other people. And Fahim Mohammed is a fixer. And I'll give you an example of that. According to Little Rodney's lawsuit, which is the 5th lawsuit, there was a rapper, we just know his name is G. He had a argument with Sean Combs and Combs' son, and they brought him in the bathroom, and then they shot him.
Oh, yeah.
Multiple gunshots, and then...
Crazy crime scene.
And then the door was opened, and G is bleeding from his abdomen.
No doubt.
And Diddy says, get him out of here, and say that I had nothing to do with this. So they take G, whoever G is, and they put him out in the front yard, and then they call the cops, and they say that G was shot in the front yard by a drive-by shooter. Now, here's the thing. And then I found an article that said that G was shot in a drive-by shooting. So that became the cover story. But that goes to show that either that situation is very corrupt or the LA police cannot discern a shot from point-blank range in a bathroom or a shot fired from yards away. So that, in and of itself, should show you that Diddy's got somebody fixing things for him.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, there was a show on I don't know if you ever saw it on Showtime called Ray Donovan, and it was just a show about a dude who did this all day long. He would just fix things for people. I didn't think that was I guess I was just being naive, but that's insane that this happens every day.
One of the movies that's in my pantheon of favorite movies is Michael Clayton, and same type of a deal. He's a fixer. I love that movie. I think it's a great movie.
That's Clooney, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not like an aficionado on Puff Daddy, but I did watch a thing where his name, or he's Diddy now, but he changed his name after Shine, something like this. He was like, used to get mad, so his mom called him Puff. He would huff and puff. And then there was something that went down after Tupac and Biggie died. He had like another up-and-coming dude that he was boys with named Shine. There was a crazy shooting. J-Lo was there. And then that dude just took the rap.
And there were witnesses that said that it was Combs that pulled out the gun.
Right.
And Shine had to do 10 years or was sentenced to 10 years, but I've been told, now I don't know if this is true, that he had some money waiting for him on the other side.
Yeah, that's how they do it.
But a jury found Combs innocent of shooting Shine or shooting that guy and also of bribery. So he obviously tried to bribe someone too, and then they found him innocent of that. But here's the thing about Combs. He hooked up with a guy named Clive Davis.
Yes.
We were familiar.
And Clive Davis is, it's funny that there's a documentary on Clive Davis. And that makes him he looks like this benign.
Oh, my buddy called me up. He's like, he's so cool, dude.
Yeah.
You know?
He looks like this benign octogenarian, like a grandpa. And he's ruthless. He's a criminal. And this is amazing. And this will kind of work into what I'm about to say.
He started the whole like honey squeaking thing, didn't he? And like showed Puff Daddy what the deal was with that.
Well, he started.
I showed Bill a documentary on payola. What was that called?
What documentary on payola?
The one where it was like that once you're not worth anything, the music industry ices you.
Oh yeah, it was like
the death clause.
The death clause in all these contracts that it's like 10x once they die. So if they have no use for you, you don't want to tour, they'll kill you like Prince. And then he'll just shoot up and make untold, like crazy amounts of money.
Like going back to like MCA times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Well, it's interesting. Clive Davis, okay, so in 71, 72, 73, he didn't pay his taxes. And then he filed false tax returns. And then later that decade, the police had busted a guy named Pasquale Falcone, who was a Genovese guy with 22 pounds of heroin. And then they started to dig into his past, and they found that Falcone started these fake companies that Davis was invoicing from CBS Records. He was the president of CBS Records, and he embezzled $47,000 or $94,000 from CBS Records. And then he was busted in the biggest payola scam of all time. He was busted paying out $250,000 in payola. So here's a guy, and those are the felonies that we know about.
Oh, yeah.
But here's a guy, he has not spent one day in jail. And
so Puff Daddy probably thought he was headed down that road.
I mean, he kind of did up until now. Like the amount of money he made with Ciroc and all these other things, it's like crazy amounts of cash. And then he's learning from Clive Davis, who was like a superpower.
But at some point, it's like there's the music and there's these guys, but then the government has to also abet this.
I would have to say that, I mean, I'm just surmising Clive Davis is most likely an informant. There's no way that you can get away with that much crime. And plus, he's been screwing over musicians forever.
Yeah.
And there's no way that you can get away with that type of criminality and not spend a day in jail unless you're working with the FBI.
Yeah, you brought up a good thing on your last podcast where you're the Alpha Omega Epstein one, where you're talking about how, I mean, it is kind of, they've made Epstein into like a fairy tale at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, but if you really think about it, this dude couldn't have been doing this alone. He's just like a cog in a wheel because he had to have muscle behind him because the guys he was going after had muscle. So at some point, like if you're going to go blackmail, if you got Ehud Barak circled in your thing, like that's a big deal. That dude ran a country for a little while. You know what I mean? Like, so if they were afraid of Epstein, so if they were afraid of like biting back on Clive Davis, and they're making documentaries about him now.
Well, Clive Davis, this documentary about him is just, it's an infomercial, basically. But with Epstein and also with Craig Spence in Washington, in the Franklin scandal, he always had Secret Service guys around him. They protected him. And I think it's gotten more sophisticated, but I also think that Spence was blackmailing people by himself. He was blackmailing people for the CIA, but he was also blackmailing people for his own consumption. And
do you think once you get into like the crossing the line, like once you start breaking the law and stuff like that, do you think that there's a separation between like CIA, FBI, Secret Service? Do you think like the guys that break the rules, are they all like kind of friends because they're breaking the rules?
Well, what's interesting, I think like with the Franklin scandal, it definitely has a CIA underpinning. But in Nebraska, it was the FBI that covered it up, and in
Right.
Washington, D.C., it was the Secret Service.
Okay.
So whatever group is the dirtiest in any given geographic area, that's who's going to be
like
deployed.
if you like say in my head, it's like just off the tip of my tongue, like it would be, you say like JFK, I'll be like, oh yeah, CIA, or like RFK would be like, you know, the mob, or if you say like MLK, it'll be like FBI. Like that's just off the top of my head, but that's just from all the media I've consumed. You know what I mean?
It's with RFK, it was, I believe, the CIA. There was a really good book written about it, A Lie Too Big to Fail by Lisa Please. Yeah, and I think that she makes a pretty tight case. Here's the thing. Here's my thinking on RFK. RFK had been said that the Warren Commission was, quote unquote, shoddy work. I mean, he'd really condemned the Warren Commission, and there's no way
I'm getting really
the CIA is going to let him become president and open an investigation into the death of his brother. That is not going to happen.
Yeah.
There is a dude on YouTube. I'll do this afterwards, but I want to show you this guy who's saying that the Warren Commission says it all. No Americans read it. It's a lone gunman. Get over it. Like, I got to show you this guy later on. This guy's.
I mean, I run into people like that, and
it's a nice life.
He's a real smarty pants. Like
that
he's
feels
like
so good. Like, oh, it happened exactly as I said it, and I can continue on.
He has a Watergate thing too. I think it's called like the geographical history of Watergate or something, and he just goes through like the official story with like drone footage of the hotels and stuff.
You know, there's so much evidence about JFK, but how does one bullet enter and exit 7 bones and is completely pristine on a next to a guy that was shot? I mean, and the cover story on that is that they were doing CPR on him, and the bullet came out.
Okay.
But that bullet is
swallow it?
that bullet is completely pristine. I mean, it's never been fired.
That's not how that works.
Yeah. The bones are their money.
And that bullet will do anything that you want it to. I mean, it's quite amazing what that bullet was able to do and still remain pristine. There's a famous autopsy expert, Cyril Sheck, I think his name is, and that's one of his quotes, is that bullet will do anything you want
Anything
it to.
you want, yeah, right. Yeah, it's pretty wild. Like I get confused with all the different conspiracies or whatever, but I've never gotten into this music stuff.
Yeah, well,
never fucked around with that.
For the P. Diddy, like a lot of the stuff I was reading when it first came out, people are sitting there like, oh, they're just going in to take, like they did with Epstein's house, where like you go in and take all the documents that's like bad for like government officials or whoever, powerful people, and then he's like the fall guy. Like, do you think that's what's happening, or is there some hope?
Well, here's the thing. The connection between Epstein and Diddy, I'll give it to you in 4 words. Andre Damian Williams Jr.
Oh, yeah. That's in the podcast. Yeah.
He's
a body man.
He is the U.S. attorney that covered up Epstein, and now he's the U.S. attorney that's taken the helm of the P. Diddy case. And what he did, he called 4 witnesses, 4 Epstein victims that had never been molested by anybody other than Epstein and Maxwell. So they didn't know about the constellation of perverts and malevolent.
Yeah, because weren't people just getting shipped in and out of the house every day, at least in New York?
And they were getting flown around, too, the girls. It's, I mean, that was like a production line.
Did you see the British thing they just made? The movie?
No.
Oh, dude, did you see this?
The Maxwell one?
No, they just made one. I'll look it up. Sorry to interrupt. Keep going.
But there's multiple perpetrators, and actually the New York Times wrote an article that named 6 procurers, a.k.a. pimps, and none of them were called. I mean, that was Damian Williams, the U.S. attorney for the Southern District of Manhattan, that made sure that none of these other perpetrators or procurers were called. He wanted to keep a lid on it. So he's a cover-up guy.
That's what I don't understand. Like, how does it even get to the point where his house gets raided? If it gets raided and goes to trial, it all gets covered up. Like, why even go through the fucking raid?
Well, because there's 6 lawsuits that are pending against him right now.
Okay.
P. Diddy. One of them was settled. I guess his lawsuit with Cassie Ventura was settled for like $30 million.
Yeah.
But that Little Rod lawsuit, which is the fifth lawsuit, I mean, that's the one that's pyrotechnic. That's talking about like hidden cameras. And two of those lawsuits were initiated by girls that were minors when they were molested by Diddy and his buddies.
Yeah.
And then Little Rod said that Diddy regularly had minors. So Diddy is trafficking. I mean, there's triple corroboration.
That Usher video stuff, that's rugged.
There's a video of him adopting some like young white chick. And
yeah,
it's just,
I saw that.
Weird as shit. Like even if that's like a good deed, there's a way better way to present that than
or like a veiled threat. I don't know what that was. Dude.
Well, he said, "Here I am adopting a white woman or a white girl," and I was thinking, "Wow, I mean, that's not the best way to start things."
It's not the best foot forward. Yeah, that thing I was talking about was Scoop. It's called. Did you see this? It was like about the Prince. It was like a heroic story of girl bosses at the BBC that got the story for a Prince Andrew interview.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it, but I haven't seen it.
But they show I was kind of shocked. In the thing they show the photographer that got the pictures of the girls coming out and the pictures of him and Andrew in the park. It was pretty cool. It was pretty good, but...
I met that guy who got the pictures of Andrew and Epstein in the park. We had a nice conversation. It's interesting. Andrew likes teddy bears.
Okay,
and
dude.
his bed is filled with 50 teddy bears. And the butler or whoever, the housekeeper or whatever, he's very particular how he wants the teddy bears. And
these people are sick, dude.
I mean, sleep with that many teddy bears tonight if you don't sweat.
So here's a grown man that does not sweat, that sleeps that sleeps with 50 teddy bears, and he's very particular about where he wants the teddy bears.
And you're telling me he's a pedophile?
Come on, man.
Shut the fuck up. Yeah, I don't understand how any of these dudes are walking around. Like, how is there's videos of P. Diddy just chilling now. How is that possible?
Well, Epstein chilled for a long time.
True.
After he was busted, he made that deal in 2000. The investigation started in 2006. He made the deal in 2008, and he wasn't taken down to 2019. So he had 11 more years to molest little girls and to pander little girls to people that would molest them. So I think that at some point the hammer's going to come down. But I think that the hammer's going to come down on Diddy and maybe one of his kids. Because what's really interesting about this, and I saw this with Franklin, and I saw this with Epstein, and I think we're going to see it with P. Diddy, is the pimps in the Franklin network, Lawrence King and Craig Spence, they were from working class families.
Yeah.
They didn't have families that would go to bat for them. Like that crazy DuPont that killed that wrestler who was deranged. I mean, he had a lot of money behind him.
My mom worked at at the house.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So he knew how crazy that dude was.
He would walk right by you as if you didn't exist.
Yeah, I've been told that he was completely deranged. And then with Epstein, he comes from this blue-collar family in Coney Island. His dad's a postman. I mean, who's going to miss Epstein? The only person that he's got going to bat for him is his brother, who's saying that he was murdered, which certainly there's a high probability of that. And now with Diddy's dad was a drug dealer who was murdered in the early 70s, and he was raised in a lower socioeconomic type environment. So there's going to be no one that's going to go to bat for him. I mean, he doesn't have old money behind him. And I think that is...
They like that, yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the recipes in all this, is to get someone from a lower socioeconomic background and then pump them up with money and make them feel like they're above it all. But then when the time comes, pull the trapdoor. That's my thinking on it. I've been working on this type of stuff for 22 years, so right. I mean, it's a somewhat educated guess. If someone would call me somewhat educated,
I mean, it makes sense, dude. Because if you don't grow up understanding power and influence and money, you're a fish out of water.
I
just
started getting a bunch of money. I'd be like, I'm a fucking genius. I can do anything.
Yeah.
I guess the big question is, did he do it or did he not? I've been waiting all day for that. So, is there any, you don't think any of those, Clive Davis type higher ups are going to get busted for that whatsoever?
Clive Davis has skated all these years.
Yeah,
I do not see Clive Davis going down at all. And I believe, now this is an extrapolation on my part, I believe that Diddy probably got hooked into that same informant network that Davis was in. I mean, that's why he's been able to get away with what he did. I mean, the government enabled Epstein to get away with what he did for all those years. The government enabled Franklin's King and Spence to get away with what they got away with all those years. So these guys are protected, and they're protected for a reason. But guys like Diddy, guys like Spence, guys like Epstein, they think that they've got too much money and they're untouchable. But when the law comes down on you with its full resources, you're not untouchable.
Yeah, you're fucked.
I mean, the government can kill a president and get away with it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, and do all the other crazy stuff it does and get away with it. So, I mean, what chance does P. Diddy have, really?
Almost none.
Yeah, it's really far out watching that. Your last podcast, the second half of that, when you get into the Epstein cover-up section of that, when you're talking about Pottinger and stuff, that's wild. Like, October Surprise, like, I don't want to spoil it for people. I think people should go watch it on their own, but to see all that going on and that boys guy from Black Cube, that shit triggers me every time because I don't know why. It's just something in my head. It's like a name that I remembered, and every time I see it, I'm like, yo, these guys are Black Cube. And it's in the Hunter Biden thing, friends with Devin Archer, all this stuff. And they're friends with dudes in the DOJ. So, like, Biden, like, gets people jobs from that used to work there.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's fucked up.
Politics is nepotism, for sure. I mean, you got to be part of the club. And I don't know if your listeners are familiar with what I've been working on with Diddy is, okay, Epstein was an intelligence op. And the only way that you're going to cover up an intelligence op is by an intelligence op, or one of the ways that you're going to cover up. And David Boies, he's one of the attorneys that's representing these girls, and Stan Pottinger is working with him. And Stan Pottinger has a history of covering stuff up. And he's definitely CIA. He was involved in Iran-Contra. And Boies is a dirty guy. He's used Black Cube on he's Black Cubed a bunch of people.
Right.
And he doesn't mind destroying people. And that's the thing about these people is they don't mind destroying people. I mean, they're that malevolent. But he's in charge. Jordana Feldman, who was in charge of the 9/11 Victims Compensation Fund, is in charge of the Epstein Victims Compensation Fund.
That's also very weird.
So, yes.
You know what I mean?
And David Boies is the guy that was the architect of it. He created the parameters. And now he's representing all these victims. 225 women have applied for money from the Victims Fund. 150 grants or whatever you want, settlements have been awarded. 8 women have declined, and 142 women have taken. And some of those women are given 7-figure settlements, and some are given lower 6-figure settlements. So there isn't a rhyme or reason. We do not know what constitutes them awarding.
Are we paying for this as taxpayers?
No, it's Epstein.
Okay.
It's from Epstein's estate. But here's the cover up with that. If you take any money from that fund, you're signing an NDA.
Yeah, right.
Where you cannot go after any of your other perpetrators.
So it's the same exact
It's the sweetheart
thing as
deal.
9/11.
It's amazing because these poor girls, they've got to keep their mouths shut about the guys that repeatedly molested them. And some of these guys, that's one of the things about Epstein and Maxwell and King and Spence that's been sanitized. These guys are vicious guys. Sex traffickers are vicious. And Epstein and Maxwell were really vicious. And I know 2 psychologists, and one is a very eminent psychologist who have clients that say that they were under the age of 10 when they were trafficked by Epstein. And one of those psychologists, as I said, is very eminent. She's very well known. And both those psychologists tried to get their clients money from that settlement or from the Epstein Victims Compensation Fund, and they were denied. And the reason why they think they were denied is because the girls were under 10. The cover story is that the youngest one was 14, which is, I think, bullshit, because actually one of those settlements was given to a girl who was 13 years old at the time. So, but Epstein, it's like Larry King and Spence. I mean, they're into pubescent boys, but if you want a 10-year-old or an 8-year-old, they'll get you a 10-year-old. I mean, Epstein is a psychopath too. If you want a 10-year-old or an 8-year-old, I mean, they'll find one for you. Whatever you want, they will find. I mean, that's the way it is.
Now, why is it like they let, like, the FBI and CIA lets this stuff go on, and like, are they waiting for the biggest fish in the world, or like, why is it always just like?
Can I start talking about Watergate?
Yeah.
Because, dude, they had a thing called Gemstone, and part of it was sexual blackmail.
Okay,
like, they run this shit. Like, they use this. This is part of their plans.
I mean, are they saying this is for the greater good, or what are we talking here?
It's for a plan that they're running.
Well, it's for power and control. I mean, that's the bottom line. And then self-enrichment. We spend, that we know of, $877 billion a year on national defense. Now, if you take Russia and China and France and Israel and a bunch of other countries and put them together, and they don't spend $877 billion as an aggregate. So we're just giving money to these defense contractors, tons of money. I know a guy who...
Do you see that thing with the bag of washers?
Yeah.
Where it was 90 G's or whatever?
Yeah, for airplane washers.
It's, I know a guy that worked with NSA guys. He had a master's. He spoke a number of different languages, and he got paid an obscene amount of money for doing nothing. I mean, and because the firm that he was working for was part of the old boy network, everybody got a ton of money. So that's the way it plays out. So with Epstein, you've got this cover-up that's being run by David Boies and Stan Pottinger, and your listeners can check out I made a video on Epstein and Diddy also, and Stan Pottinger is a major player in this cover-up, as you were saying.
You actually had me thinking he has no balls. I asked Spaz, is he actually a eunuch?
He keeps saying eunuch, yeah.
And he's definitely CIA.
The weird thing is that he writes books, and so did Howard Hunt. I was gonna try to see if I could squeeze in reading one of E. Howard Hunt's books, but I just didn't have enough time.
Yeah.
But it's a weird thing to have them just chill out on the farm and write books when they're not busy.
Yeah, they'll have book deals somehow.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing with Pottinger. He'd never written a novel before, and Ballantine Books gave him $500,000 to write a first-time novel.
Yeah, it's unheard of.
I mean, what did J.K. Rowling get for her first one?
Yeah.
I mean, if I gave Ballantine Books $500,000, they would not publish a book of mine. So it just shows you how corrupt. And Pottinger was lovers with Gloria Steinem for 9 years. She was head of the...
she was a feminist, right?
Yeah.
Burning the bras stuff?
Yeah, and she was CIA. And she's even lied about it. I mean, she's comped to being CIA up until 61. But there was a feminist magazine out of, I think, San Francisco some years ago that showed that she was getting CIA money throughout the 60s. So she's lied about that. And here's this icon of feminism, Gloria Steinem, being funded by the CIA. So
it must have been wild for a dude like Nixon. First of all, he's got a gripe against the rich.
Yeah.
So he hates the Ivies. That's all the intelligence. Then he was a vice president when this shit was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that's crazy about Nick's Watergate book is I read another book last year.
Yeah, it pissed you off.
Pissed me the fuck off about Richard Helms and Richard Nixon. But they really...
Scorpions Dance?
Yeah. First of all, I don't believe in the Washington Post dude is fucking CIA, whatever. That's where that dude's from. He's got a JFK podcast coming out.
Yeah.
But
that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm sure it rules. But yeah, they kind of brush over this conversation that Nixon has where he's like, oh, they're going to bring up the whole Bay of Pigs thing. But it's way different in Nick's book.
Who shot John? Well, that's... Okay, so when we get into Watergate's a very complex story. It's a conspiracy within a conspiracy. I think the best starting spot to explain Watergate is Nixon was a hawk. and he was a red baiter, and he was on the House Committee on Un-American Activities, which went after all these commies. And
this is a long time ago.
This is in the this is in the 1950s. He was down with McCarthy, completely down with him.
And where does he come from?
He comes from Whittier, California.
Okay.
He's a peasant though, compared to these other guys.
Well, actually, his family had a citrus farm that was frozen over, and they lost everything. And when he was a kid, he was working in the fields.
Damn.
So he does not come from an affluent background. And then his parents eventually got a loan from his wife's relatives, and they started a gas station grocery. But he worked his ass off. I mean, he'd wake up at 4 a.m. and go into L.A. and get vegetables and then bring them back and then go to college or go to high school. So he was working his ass off. And the thing with Nixon is he saw that it wasn't working, that containment wasn't working, that red baiting wasn't working. And he decided to, when he became president, he decided to make peace overtures towards the Soviets and also the Chinese. And this is what, because when he was campaigning, he was talking about, I'm going to be a peacemaker. I'm going to be a peacemaker. Yeah. And people thought, well, this is just Tricky Dicky and he's lying. And
yeah, he had pulled some other tricks before.
For everyone.
Yeah. And I'm not a Nixon apologist. I mean, he did some really good things, but he did some really bad
Nixon
things
the one
too.
Who Roger Stone's on his squad? Or is that
that's on Roger Stone. And actually, Roger Stone has a Nixon bong too. Okay. So where he got that, I have no idea.
But new life to the Stone Zone.
It's so Nixon thought that he was going to make peace with the Soviets and with the Chinese. And on his first or second day in office, he issued National Security Memorandum 2, which sounds kind of innocuous. But basically what he's saying is the CIA, the Department of Defense, and the State Department will no longer have any role whatsoever in my geopolitical moves.
Yeah, that'll work out good.
Essentially gets you killed, right?
Yeah. So, it didn't work really well for Kennedy.
Yeah.
And so that marked him. And Helms and Nixon, Helms was head of the CIA, Richard Helms, they hated each other. Nixon would have Helms, usually Helms would stay for a cabinet meeting and a National Security Council meeting, but Nixon just had Helms brief the cabinet and National Security Council, and then he had to leave.
Get him out, right.
He was persona non grata. So they hated each other. And Nixon is conducting these clandestine negotiations with the Soviets and the Chinese. He's doing strategic arm limitation talks with the Chinese. He really wanted to reduce the armaments.
Yeah. Is this after his election?
Yeah.
Okay.
In 1972, his second election. And actually, during his time in office, he cut defense spending by 64%. So he was putting his money where his mouth was, or he was putting the Pentagon's money where his mouth was. And then he wanted to open up China, and what his goal is to befriend China and then use China to play against the Soviet Union to expedite the strategic arm limitation talks. So, and the Hawks at the Defense Department, the CIA, the State Department, they were appalled and shocked, and they hated the communists. They did not trust the communists.
It's hard for me to wrap my head around just because we didn't grow up. We were born so far away from it all. But the world must have been a way different place. Like when you're describing in the book like Lydian dudes like this, like, and you're saying like these kind of guys, like to explain to someone from the 21st century what these guys are like, it's tough. I can't imagine like a Red Scare. Like I can't imagine like being afraid of communists. You know what I mean?
Well, you had huge arsenals on both sides that could completely wipe out the world, and then you had guys like Joseph Stalin, who didn't really care much about human life.
Yeah.
And I mean, he demonstrated that innumerable times. So, and Khrushchev was a little better, but Brezhnev was pretty ugly too. So you had these Soviet guys, and they're pretty ominous, and our leaders aren't the most benevolent either. There truly was.
So it was like an un-American thing what him and Kissinger were trying to do. Like they were thinking they were saving the country by getting rid of these guys.
And Nixon told the Soviets that he was willing to relinquish Vietnam.
True. Yeah.
If they started to negotiate with him. And that really
CIA did not like to hear that.
That really pissed off the Joint Chiefs started an espionage ring against Nixon. And it was called the Moore-Radford Affair. Moore was the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and Radford was the liaison between the Pentagon and the National Security Council. And they had an inside man at the National Security Council, Alexander Haig, and he was funneling documents to Radford, and then Radford would give them to Moore. And what ultimately happened there was the Nixon administration outed it.
Right.
And that put an end to it. But then it was the CIA's turn to take a shot at it. And I kind of envision like when in Scarface, where the Bolivian drug lord sends all the assassins at Scarface in his estate, the CIA just started infiltrating the Nixon administration. Any way that the CIA could infiltrate the Nixon administration, it infiltrated the Nixon administration.
Yeah, well, I got one of these things that you wrote here is Haig once screamed that Nixon and Kissinger were selling us out to the communists. He also thought that Nixon was inherently weak and lacked mettle. He joked that Nixon's limp wrist manner meant he was a homosexual.
Alexander Haig didn't like Nixon, but Haig was a shapeshifter, and Nixon thought the world of Haig. I mean, what Haig was able to pull over the wool on Nixon was pretty stunning. So ultimately, you've got the CIA, and there's two different factions in the Nixon administration. There's the White House faction, and then there's the Council to Committee to Re-elect the President. There's that faction, and actually Nixon kind of stoked animosity between those two. And John Mitchell, who was the Attorney General, had run Nixon's first campaign. He was a big shot lawyer on Wall Street. And so he became the Attorney General, and Jeb Magruder he was an apparatchik. He became acting boss.
Apparatchik is a great word. Yeah. His name's Jeb Stuart Magruder, too, which is goat.
All these names sound made up. That's the only thing I know about Watergate is every name sounds fake.
Yeah. All the names sound fake. The dudes sound like there's something from a Tarantino movie.
Yeah.
I swear to God, if you read the book, it's like, it seems like one of these movies where it's like crazy characters. I'm telling you, dude. Like Howard Hunt, like he's a fucking... And then these guys are pretending not to know each other. They like high-five each other like, oh, yeah, nice to meet you. It's wild stuff, dude. It's hard to describe all because it's a whole book.
Yeah.
And this is not even the whole book. This is like the watered down version of all the books Nick had to read.
Yeah.
Which was a lot of fucking books, man.
Yeah.
So Magruder, who was a weak-willed guy, was acting chief of the committee to re-elect the president. And they were getting lots of money. And then you had the people in the Nixon White House. And Magruder, and then at the heart of this is a CIA sexual blackmail operation, a honey trap. And that's what's been covered up really well.
Right.
Yeah, I had no clue about that.
That's been covered up really well. Jim Hogan addressed it, and also Len Kolodny addressed it, and Stanford addressed it in White House Coggrel.
How little this is given in the Scorpion's Dance for the Richard Helms book is just McCord had a basement with some young 17-year-old girls and got busted.
So are we talking underage or are we talking...
Well, okay, so...
college girls.
Okay.
Yeah, with Heidi Reichen's brothel. Okay, that was like... Heidi Reichen's brothel was about... It was in the Plaza apartment, so it was about a block away from the Watergate. And... If you were a Democratic VIP, you'd go to Maxie Wells, who was a secretary, and she'd get an album, and then you'd look through the album, you'd find the prostitute that you wanted, you'd go to the Columbia Plaza, you would get it on with her, and then you would be filmed by the CIA. That was a CIA honey trap.
Right.
It was run by James McCord.
How do you not know that's going to happen? If someone's like, hey, I'm going to give you some pussy, I'm like, dude, what are you doing to me? Like, something's up.
No, I mean, they're paying for it.
Oh, okay.
Here's the thing. I've been at this for 22 years, and I've concluded if love is blind, lust is deaf, dumb, and quadriplegic.
It's Helen Keller.
So that was now McCord was overseeing that honey trap, and he'd overseen another honey trap in Maryland that you were talking about.
Yeah.
And Hunt was in on it too. And Hunt and McCord these guys were super spooks.
Like, but they say McCord is their best guy from the CIA.
Really?
Dude, they also, do you remember when we were talking about the Rand Corporation?
Yes.
Ellen Dulles.
Do you remember Ellsberg? Danny Ellsberg did the Panama, or what was it called? Something like that? The Pentagon Papers.
Panama, yeah.
Dude, they break into his psychologist's office. I can't remember the story. Nick has to.
Hunt and Liddy, well, first, yeah, they broke into it, but they cased it the first time. And then the second time they brought some Cubans, CIA assets, and then they broke into it. And they completely made it look like some drug addict had broken into it.
Right.
Like all the files were turned over and ripped and and that was not part of the plan. So these guys have their own agenda. McCord and Hunt have their own agenda. And the agenda of McCord and Hunt is to get Nixon out of office. And there'll be some other CIA guys later in the story, but that is the goal. The goal of McCord was to protect the brothel from getting discovered and to get rid of Nixon. That was the goal of McCord. The goal of Hunt was to get Nixon out and get as much money as he possibly could. I think that was...
Yeah, right.
And so you've got these two competing factions in the Nixon administration. You've got Jeb Magruder, and then you've got John Dean, who is the counsel for the president. And John Dean's wife, Maureen Dean, knows Heidi Reichen very well. And Heidi Reichen is the woman that's running the brothel.
Heidi Reichen is smoking.
Is she really?
Yeah, she's like ridiculously hot. It fucks everyone up. And she like runs a brothel.
Okay.
She's kind of like, she's like a hot German chick, right? Something like that.
Yeah, she's smoking. Yeah. She's a 10.5 for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Head
tough.
turner, dude.
It is tough. Like the pedophilia stuff, I completely do not condone whatsoever. But like, if you're just a politician and
what are you gonna do, dude? What are you gonna do? Especially when everyone else is doing it.
Yeah,
everyone else is elbowing you like Columbia, dude.
Yeah,
Plaza Hotel.
Something up with you.
As I said, lust is deaf, dumb, and quadriplegic.
I'm horny.
Yeah. So. Maureen Dean, John Dean's wife, is very good friends with Heidi Reichen, and she hangs out with Heidi Reichen. And now Gordon Liddy and some other people have postulated that she was part of that prostitution ring. But according to the chronology of John Dean and Maureen Dean, she couldn't have been because they met in L.A. and then they both flew back, and then she moved in with him. So she wouldn't, but yet she's definitely part of that network. She knows Heidi Reichen. She hangs out with Heidi Reichen. But I found an article that totally disrupted that timeline. I found an article that she was in Washington, D.C., and that's where they met.
Yeah, she's fibbing.
And so John Dean knew what was happening at the Watergate. And he had one of his minions try to case the Watergate. And Jeb Magruder was kind of a weak-willed guy, and I think he was probably blackmailed. He was having definitely affairs with Heidi Reichen's prostitutes. So chances are Jeb Magruder's blackmailed too. John Dean and Jeb Magruder decide to break into the Watergate. Now, no one in the Nixon administration above them is aware of that.
Right.
Nobody. They're doing this.
Rogue agents.
Dude, Liddy's a maniac. He thinks, dude, for real. Liddy thinks he thinks it's the FBI is the SS.
Yes.
Like the dude.
I could see that.
But I'm just saying, like he wanted stormtroopers.
Okay.
And he takes his family to see Triumph of the Will. I mean, which is
what's that?
It was a Nazi propaganda.
Yeah, I didn't know what that was.
So Dean knows what's going on in the Watergate, and Jeb Magruder is probably compromised. And you've got the plumbers. And the plumbers are a group. There were a number of leaks. You were talking about Daniel Ellsberg leak. There were some other leaks about us bombing Cambodia clandestinely. And the Nixon administration, and then there was the Moore Radford affair. So the Nixon administration started a group called the plumbers, and their job was to plug leaks. And G. Gordon Liddy was an FBI guy and totally crazy, and he ran it. But then he incorporated McCord, who was a CI guy, and Hunt, who was a CI guy. And these guys completely bamboozled Liddy. Liddy, I mean, he's crazy, but he's a fairly smart guy. But he was up against super spies.
Yeah.
I mean, they just ran circles around him. So
that's got to be so cool.
So
to trick people on that level.
This is a textbook definition, circle fuck.
So at that point, you've got Hunt and McCord starting to do stuff on their own, like break into Daniel Ellsberg's psychiatrist's office. And no one told them to do that in the Nixon administration. They're doing this stuff of their own accord.
Yeah.
And Liddy thinks they're doing it to get intelligence. And Hunt and McCord are doing it because they want to incriminate the White House. That is their goal, is to incriminate the White House and get Nixon out. Yeah. That's what they want to do. And eventually, Dean and Magruder decide to send the plumbers into the Watergate. And no one in the Nixon administration knows what's going on. Dean's kind of low on the totem pole in the administration, and Jeb Magruder, he's the acting boss of the committee to reelect the president. But as soon as the campaign starts, he's going to step aside, and John Mitchell is going to do that. And what's really interesting, the Democratic National Committee is on the 6th floor, and then the Federal Reserve Board is on the 8th floor of the Watergate. And their first break-in, they signed in at midnight. McCord and 5 Cubans, and they signed in to the 8th floor to the Federal Reserve, which had been burgled a month before. And they were trying to get busted, but that security guard had like the intelligence of an avocado.
Yeah. I think people were dumber back then, for real.
I mean, he truly was. I mean, he might have had 5 or 6 functioning neurons. And he didn't get it. He just didn't get it. That here are these guys with suits and suitcases going up to the 8th floor of the Federal Reserve that's just been burgled. I mean, it's so they tried their damnedest to get busted that night. And the security guard didn't do anything.
Why were they trying to get busted?
Because they wanted to incriminate the Nixon administration.
They're trying to get him out.
So like a false flag.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
They're trying to. So, and now this is where the conspiracy within a conspiracy comes in. Magruder and Dean send them in a second time about 3 weeks later. And they know they're shooting for the album with the prostitutes. One of the burglars, Eugenio Martinez, has got the key to the drawer that has the album of prostitutes. They busted him with that key. And their photographic equipment was set up on that desk.
Yeah.
So they were clearly... Now, that was the directive of Magruder and John Dean, was to get dirt on the Democrats. But then you had the CIA guys wanting to incriminate Nixon. And
this is the dirty tricks. This is the official story of Watergate.
This is the official story of Watergate. And what's amazing about this is they essentially did the same thing. They came in late at night, and the security guard just didn't get it. And they taped...
Never getting busted.
But this is funny.
Sneak mode.
They taped a bunch of doors, and then the security guard did his rounds, and he saw that they were taped, but he still didn't do anything. I mean, this
guy minds his own fucking business.
I mean, and it's just amazing. But the CIA guys, a guy named Alfred Baldwin was working with McCord. He was one of the CIA guys. And they decided that they had to call, because the security guard was so brain dead, that they had to call the police to get them arrested.
This is what Forrest Gump does in the movie.
It's
yeah.
And what's really interesting is the call was taken by a guy named Carl Schaffler, who was an intelligence guy. He was on the police department, but he's also an intelligence guy. And he was parked 2 blocks away from the Watergate. So him and 2 of his colleagues just went in the Watergate, and then they busted them. And that was, and here's the thing about that. No one these burglars got busted. They were CIA guys, except for G. Gordon Liddy. He was the FBI guy. And no one in the Nixon administration, they were going, what the hell? Because they were all calling each other and saying, did you send them in? And
no one knows.
No, I didn't send them in. Did you send them in? I didn't send them in. You sent them in. So Nixon and the upper echelon, the hierarchy of the administration, they had no idea of who sent the burglars in. And that's where Nixon starts to make some mistakes, because Nixon's natural instinct is to cover stuff up.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just his natural instinct. It's like...
it's like lying to your girlfriend.
Yeah. So what ultimately happened was the FBI started tracing money to the committee to reelect the president. And...
how fast does all this happen?
That's happening pretty quick.
Okay,
that's happening within
like dominoes are coming.
That's happening within a week.
Is that by design, or just like they just start firing all cylinders?
I think that the FBI was. I don't think that the FBI at this point knew that the CIA was involved.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure that they didn't. Actually, they thought that the CIA was involved because of the money. Some of the money was coming from Mexico. But what happened was Dean told Halderman that the FBI was on to the burglars. And no one except for Dean and Magruder knew what the burglars were up to. And Nixon decided, and this is what ended his presidency. He decided he was going to use the CIA to stop the FBI. You can do that.
You fool.
The national security, you can play your national security trump card. And that can, I mean, we've seen that before.
Yeah.
And so Nixon, but Helms wasn't going to do it. But then Nixon leveraged him with the JFK assassination.
Yeah, what? So, yeah, explain that.
So...
this is the Bay of Pigs conversation.
Yes, the Bay of Pigs conversation.
I always hear that. I have no idea what that means.
Dude, it's fucking...
Okay, what happened was the Bay of Pigs was an operation to get Castro. And then Kennedy decided not to go all the way with it. So
they wanted air support, and Kennedy was like, nah, you're not getting that.
So then that whole operation got turned towards Kennedy. And there's actually tapes of Nixon asking Helms, who shot John? I mean, Nixon is grilling the head of the CIA, trying to get him to cop to saying, well, we did it.
Yeah,
and what's really interesting is, so Nixon decided to play the CIA card, and Helms said he was going to play it after he got leveraged with the CIA stuff or the Kennedy stuff. But then he didn't. He lied. He double-crossed Nixon. And that is what got Nixon busted, was obstruction. He was busted for obstruction of justice. That's what got him impaled, was obstruction of justice. So he did not send the burglars in. He knew nothing about the burglars. He tried to cover it up with the CIA, and the CIA double-crossed him.
And the CIA is the one who hot-mic'd them.
What's that?
Is the CIA the one who hot-mic'd them?
No, he was hot-micing him. You talking about Nixon?
Yeah.
No,
he was hot-micing himself.
Yeah, he hot-mic'd himself. But here's the thing about that.
He hot-mic'd his whole presidency, dude. He's a maniac.
No, Johnson had and Kennedy had put in microphones in the White House. But here's the thing. The guy that was in charge of the of Nixon's microphones was a CIA guy named Butterfield. And Bob
it's a
Woodward,
movie, dude. We didn't even get to Woodward yet. This is a fucking movie, bro.
Woodward is a CI guy. He was naval intelligence, and then now this is kind of strange with Woodward, and it shows you how crazy Woodward is and how this has been covered up. Woodward was accepted to Harvard Law School, but he ostensibly went to the Washington Post and said, I tell you what, I want to be a journalist, and if you let me write for 2 weeks for you, and you don't have to pay me, and if I'm good, then you can just hire me. Now, the Washington Post isn't going to make a deal like that with anybody.
Yeah.
So that's already...
He went for it straight out the gate. Well, he was in the Navy, I think. Wasn't he boys with Haig?
Well, he was briefing Haig.
Yeah, he was
and that's what...
This is a circle fuck. Like he's chilling with Haig. He's like working with Haig, and then he's I'm going to be a journo. And he immediately goes to the Washington Post, and I'm like, get away. Then he goes to another paper.
Well, then he goes to the Maryland Sentinel, which is a weekly, and that's owned by the Washington Post, and that's like his AAA team, where he learns how to, and he still can't write. I mean, that's why he's always writing with other people. I mean, Woodward is a bad writer.
I know who Woodward is.
Woodward blows, Bernstein's a pervert.
Yeah.
It's fucked up.
So you've got Woodward working in Maryland. He hasn't relinquished his expensive apartment at Washington, D.C. He rides a Carmen Ghia. He drives a Carmen Ghia. He goes up to New York at least once a week. The dude is getting
You're not a pocket watcher, but
he's getting paid $140 a week, and he's living like that.
Yeah.
And then he's telling his colleagues about banana republics that are going to have revolutions and things like that. Woodward is clearly a spy.
He's not even good at it.
Get hired as a spy for that bad.
Well, if you got the government and the Washington Post behind you, you can get away with a lot of shit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even someone as stupid and ridiculous as Bob Woodward. So, what's really interesting about all this is Bob Woodward comes back to the Washington Post, and within 8 months, he's breaking Watergate, along with Bernstein. Now, Bernstein is kind of an interesting guy. He's he spent all his money on prostitutes and cocaine.
Which one lost the Pulitzer? Is it him or Woodward?
I put the money on Bernstein.
Okay.
I mean, Bernstein is a sex addict. He's a drug addict, but he was actually in a swingers party that had a bunch of CIA guys, and then he was buddies with a pimp that would give him under the table pornography.
Degenerate, bro.
Yeah. Just an all around low life. And with Bernstein, Woodward is intelligence. He wants to get rid of Nixon because he's with that cabal. Bernstein just wants money for nothing and chicks for free. I mean, that's what he's about, is money for nothing and chicks for free.
Oh, dude, I think, doesn't he do like MTV stuff?
That's the Dire Straits.
Yeah.
Money for nothing and chicks for free. So Woodward and Bernstein have this common bond. They want to take down Nixon. Woodward wants to take him down because he's as he was described at Yale as a crypto-fascist. And Bernstein just wants money for nothing and chicks for free, and lots of blow too.
Okay.
And they tell so many lies, and Andrew will show that, I spend a couple of showing all the lies that they tell.
Oh, dude, it's wild. It's so insane. Woodward completely bamboozles John Belushi's wife.
What?
Dude, it's too much of a story. You got to read it in the book. He's like, yo, I'm going to do this expose. It's going to be really cool. And she hooks him up with all the network of John Belushi to write a story. And then he's like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm just going to put this in a book. Fuck you.
And he didn't even give her back the pictures, and the pictures went in the book too.
Jesus Christ.
They also run cover. They start running cover for real right-wing type shit. They clean up the Morris, the Radford affair. Oh yeah, once they get in once they become what is it? All the President's Men. So beat, dude.
Once they become the Mount Rushmore of journalism.
Yeah, and they're in their they're in their 20s.
That's one of mine.
Okay. I mean, okay. Yeah, dude, you get take a look at Woodward and then know that he had Robert Redford play himself.
Oh my God! You show me Woodward. You show me
Dustin
him
Hoffman
and
actually is a pretty good casting for Bernstein, but Robert Redford's out of control.
And are these?
I'd be like if I had Chris Pratt play me.
Yeah. Are these the guys that were doing all the like fake signals and like leaving a newspaper?
Yeah. Okay. So that's okay. So Woodward.
We're talking about Deep Throat.
Yeah.
Ostensibly had Woodward's deep source with all the dirt is ostensibly Mark Felt, who was an associate director of the FBI. And according to their book, All the President's Men, Felt goes by Woodward's balcony every day and looks up at the flower pot.
They make up these stories.
If the
It would
flower
have been easier to do it.
if the flower pot has been moved, then they meet. They ostensibly meet in an underground garage in Fairfax, Virginia, at 2 a.m.
This is like some Hitchcock shit. Like you got to put it in their mind. You know,
like
what I mean?
the Hardy Boys.
Yeah, yeah.
But what's really funny is Woodward's apartment is facing a courtyard, so the dude would have to get out of his car and walk underneath, and then look straight up.
Yeah.
To see, and if we're going to make a ridiculous story all the more ridiculous, he said that Felt was Deep Throat. Now, he might have gotten some information from Felt, but the most damaging information definitely came from Alexander Haig. But Felt was fired 6 months prior to the most damaging information. So they're trying to have us believe that Felt is driving in from Virginia every day.
Yeah.
You know, going behind Woodward's courtyard and looking up, taking 50 steps and then looking up. And then there's more bullshit that if Felt wanted to meet with Woodward, he'd on page 20 of the New York Times, he'd have a clock and he'd
Oh, this is a great one.
Well, that's just they leave all the papers outside, right? So
yes,
it's not like assigned papers. Like, this is a pile of papers.
Yeah, just a pile of papers. Yeah.
But dude, this is the same shit as like all like the emails and stuff that we look into. Like they didn't think this kind of like disclosure would ever come to the world.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're just writing a story. Then they wrote the cover-up book.
Yeah, I guess there was no like real internet, so you're just sitting there telling a story, and every time you can tell a different one. It's kind of the same.
They were getting attaboys, and then the dudes like this like Watergate coup did not have. This is not like non-consequential.
Yeah.
The Bob Woodward just did some shit against Trump. He wrote a book about Trump, I think. But anyway, like they usher in Cheney and Rumsfeld.
Damn.
Yeah, so like this is not this is back in the 70s. Like there was a book that I saw a long time ago, and it was like Bush one. It was either on Reagan's staff or Bush 1's staff. It must have been Reagan's.
What happened was when Nixon got booted from the presidency, Gerald Ford took over.
Gerald Ford from the Warren Commission.
and then Gerald Ford brought in Donald Rumsfeld to be his chief of staff. And then Donald Rumsfeld was made Secretary of Defense, and then Dick Cheney became Rumsfeld's chief of staff.
And they were all
became Ford's chief of staff.
They were all young dudes, right?
Yeah, so that's how the neocons got started. As soon as Nixon was ejected, they brought in Ford, who is, I think, kind of brain dead a little bit, but I could be wrong. But then you had Rumsfeld, and then you had Cheney. And then Woodward and Bernstein covered it all up. So the neocons, and the guy that was head of the Washington Post at that point was definitely CIA. His name was Ben Bradley, and he was writing CIA propaganda. There was a couple in the 50s that were ostensibly giving A-bomb secrets to the Russians, and they had kids, and they were a couple. They were the Rosenbergs, and they were
I've heard of this,
sent to the electric chair. Yeah. So Ben Bradley was told by the CIA to write a bunch of propaganda because there were a bunch of magazines in Europe that were saying how brutal the U.S. was for killing the Rosenbergs because they had kids. So Ben Bradley...
The kids are still alive, right?
What's that?
Are the kids still alive?
Yeah.
Okay.
And actually, there was a movie made about one of them. So what's really interesting there is, so Ben Bradley writes all this CIA propaganda about how the Rosenbergs were guilty and what the United States was doing was right. And then years down the road, a woman named Deborah Davis, who is a journalist for the Village Voice, she writes a book called Catherine the Great, where she says that Ben Bradley is producing CIA propaganda in the 1950s. Now, Ben Bradley goes on the offensive. The book is published by Harcourt and Brace, and they put so much pressure on that company that they pulp all her books. I mean, all
What's
her
that
books.
mean?
They're just shredded.
To pulp.
They're just shredded.
Right.
And then there's magazines that come after her and question her sanity. I mean, those guys really tried to destroy her. And Harcourt Brace eventually gave her the rights back to the book, and she eventually got it published. But in the interim, she'd filed a bunch of FOIA requests on Ben Bradley and the CIA, and they came back and he was writing CIA propaganda.
Dude, I want to try to do a FOIA just to see what happens.
Yeah. How do you
do this?
It's pretty easy. I've done a couple of FOIAs with Epstein. This is kind of off track, but it's kind of humorous. No, this is kind of humorous. So when Epstein died, the Fed said his case was closed. So I filed a FOIA, and I didn't want the DVDs, but I wanted reports on the DVDs that had been taken out of his safe. And then I got an email back from the FBI saying that the case was ongoing. And then I read somewhere else that the case was closed, so I filed another FOIA, and then I got an email back saying that the case was ongoing. So
it's still going.
We're not going to get those DVDs, I don't think, or reports on the DVDs.
You think the Washington Post is still CIA? You think all this stuff is still going on?
I think that
Or they moved to like the internet.
I think it's worse now than it's ever been.
Oh yeah.
At this point, and I read this on Business Insider. I'd heard it for years, but Business Insider looked into it. 90% of the news that's imbibed by Americans is owned by 6 corporations.
I've heard this, yeah.
So there's got to be a symbiosis there. I mean, those corporations could be broken up at any time with the Sherman Antitrust Act. So they're
I was cracking up thinking that me and you are a symbiote.
Yeah.
So these corporations are going to piss off the government too much because they can be broken up. It's like Mockingbird was the CIA's project to infiltrate the media. And the Washington Post was the first one that was infiltrated.
Right, okay.
The Washington Post had been infiltrated from the jump since Mockingbird and God knows everything else. And because if you look at our news, it's pretty homogenous. And people have shown talking points, like even
the
Fox.
Of them all together, especially local news is like word for word the same exact thing.
Well, from reading the Truth About Watergate and then watching the Alpha Omega Epstein thing, so it's like the Pottinger dude and the Church Commission, like in the it must have been a wild time in the 70s of people almost busting almost the CIA getting busted. Then they have the Church Commission, and that's how we know about Mockingbird and MK Ultra and all this stuff. But then it goes away. Then the neocons come in, and we have the 80s. Everything rules.
Ronald Reagan took over,
and they pulled off Iran-Contra.
Well, and what's interesting about Iran-Contra is there was so much malfeasance involved in Iran-Contra. Not only were we were selling armaments to Iran, who we were ostensibly enemies with, and the deal was the Reagan administration made a deal with the Iranians, and it's called the October Surprise. And actually, the New York Times said it even existed last March, so that's kind of cool. I mean, everybody knows that it's existed. That's looked into.
I just found out about it a couple years ago.
Yeah, they tried to do that with Rudy Giuliani. They're like, oh, we got an October Surprise with the last election.
Well, they say October Surprise now all the time because of the original one.
Okay.
But actually, Nixon was the first October Surprise because he told President II of South Vietnam that if he held off on peace talks with the Johnson administration, that he would give him a much better deal. I mean, Nixon eventually double-crossed him.
Wait,
but
did Johnson run again?
No, Johnson didn't run. And now here's what's interesting about that. Johnson was a power-hungry dude. I mean,
he shit like out in the open and had a huge dick.
Yeah, he was quite fond of the size of his manhood. I mean,
he loved Jackie O too, right?
Dude, if you're fucking big soft, why not?
Yeah, true.
So, I mean, he was like the Johnny Wad of politics, I think. So with Johnson, now here's what's kind of interesting with Johnson, because here's a guy that lusts for power.
Forgot that's his last name. Now you're saying this.
Lyndon Big Johnson.
He does give a phone call. It's recorded, I guess, from Johnson recorded his thing. He calls up Jackie O after the assassination.
That was brutal.
Come on over whenever you want. You know?
Yeah, he dirty Mac JFK's dead body.
Johnson was a dirty guy, but he didn't run for president in '68, and he could have. And the cover story on that is that he was worried that Bobby Kennedy was going to beat him. But I've never believed that, because he must have known that Bobby Kennedy was going to be taken out.
Oh, yeah.
Because everybody knew that Bobby Kennedy was going to start an investigation into his brother's death. There's no way that Bobby Kennedy... So I have no idea why Johnson... I mean, Johnson was compromised for sure.
I've heard, I mean, it's totally not backed up by any, like, cited source, that when they killed Kennedy, he was, like, crying in a corner, they're going to kill us all.
I don't know, because I think that there's a guy named Philip Hansen that wrote a book about it. And it's kind of interesting when they take that, when the motorcade takes that turn and drives down parallel to the grassy knoll, Lyndon Johnson is in the car and he's ducked down. I mean, there's pictures of him, yeah, where he's ducking down.
He's a big dude too.
Yeah,
he's 6'4". Philip Hansen, that's a really good book. I mean, he really shows that LBJ was in on killing. I mean, but you had to.
Also, I've heard that Connolly, that the other guy in the car, he was in some shady shit.
Connolly was a dirty Texas politician. He'd been the governor, and
he took a bullet.
Okay,
one of the magic bullets.
Well, the magic bullet.
Yeah,
he took the magic bullet. Well, it went through Kennedy, and then it went through Johnson's arm, and then it went through
it's like a Marvel
his leg, and it went through. There were 7 exit and entry points. So, and then it was pristine, which is kind of strange. Yeah. But yeah, I think Johnson was very dirty. But that's what's weird about it is I think that the deal, and this is where Nixon really pissed people off. I think now this is just I've been studying this stuff for a while. This is my opinion. I could be wrong, but I think that Johnson had been president for 7 years. So
that's pretty much 2 terms,
for 5 years, and for Kennedy's last year, and then he had 4 years where he just walloped the Republican Barry Goldwater. What's interesting is he stepped down, and I believe that there was a deal where Johnson got his Great Society, got to spend a lot of money on the Great Society, and then he would step down and then let Nixon take over. And I think that Nixon really double-crossed the people that were that had helped him become president.
So he told the dude in Vietnam, chill till October.
Yeah.
And then I'll become, when I'm elected, things will be different.
And Reagan did the exact same thing with the Iranians. He told the Iranians, keep the hostages until I get elected, and we'll give you really good deals on arms.
Did people know he was shady?
Reagan?
Yeah, back in the day. Like, did they know this, or did they think he was like...
Well, everybody thought he was... I mean, he made movies with monkeys and stuff like that. But I think people thought he was clean. And because I've wondered this about Reagan. I mean, William Casey and some of the other people that were in his administration were really dirty guys.
Oh, yeah.
I think he was friends with the Safari Club dudes.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that was William Casey in that?
No, William Casey's fucked up.
He's the oil boy, right?
Will Casey.
Yeah. He's your oil boy.
He likes to get greased up.
Yeah. That came out in Confessions of a DC Man. Yeah. Because these male prostitutes were going back to Henry Vincent and saying, "Whoa, what's up with this? This guy wants to be oiled and he can't and he can't get erect." I mean, they were kind of perplexed. And then he liked candles too. So it was
everyone's different, man. That's what I've learned growing up.
Well, it gave these prostitutes the willies, and I mean, his old shriveled body. I mean,
That's like a Roswell fucking crash site. But you didn't know what was good with Reagan?
He would have been really young too.
Reagan must have known about the October surprise. I mean, there's no way that he couldn't have known. I don't know if he knew. I mean, George Bush and Felix Rodriguez and Donald Gregg. And Donald Gregg we talk about Donald Gregg in Confessions of a DC Man because he's into gay prostitutes too. They started Iran-Contra. And I don't know if Reagan was really cognizant of what was going on in Iran-Contra, how dirty Iran-Contra was. But he definitely knew about the October surprise. I've got no doubts about that.
And that changed everything.
Yeah, it is.
That was a big deal. Those
well,
prisoners.
He won by a huge landslide against Carter.
It is weird that Nixon tried to do all this stuff with like ending wars and everything, and then after they finally get him out, they go, "Oh yeah, watch this," and you have Rumsfeld and Dick Cheney, and then what transpired from then until now is fucking hell on wheels.
Well, it's called the Global War on Terror.
Yeah,
it's.
And I'm wondering if we can't stop it because of the sexual blackmail.
Yeah, I mean that's what it seems like. I mean, people just keep their fucking dicks in their pants.
But that's impossible with our politicians, and. That's why, we were talking about Epstein Justice. I've started this nonprofit called Epstein Justice. And I think our only hope, I really do. I mean, we know that the government has aided and abetted child trafficking in the Epstein case. When you cover up a crime, you're aiding and abetting that crime. So when you've got like a pathology, there's 3 phases of it. There's awareness, there's acceptance, there's action. And we need people know they have to accept it, and then there can be action. And I believe that this can work. I believe that Americans, if you really put this in their face, because the mainstream media has totally sanitized Epstein.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Epstein was served up some of these girls to really sadistic pedophiles. And they were just vicious.
Yeah, and it's like Epstein's, he's dead. Ghislaine, she's in jail. End of story. No one else.
Yeah, and these guys, the government has covered this up, and I think Americans, and I might be completely delusional, but I think that Americans can do something about this, that this can be a spark, because right now our system is predicated on blackmail, and these guys have no power. They vote for who they're told to vote for, and we have to change that, or else. I mean. The congressional approval rating right now is 17%. That means that 83% of Americans don't believe in what our Congress is doing.
It makes me feel like we're living in North Korea.
Yeah, we got Fetterman, so it's tough. Fetterman's a tough one.
Yeah, he's disabled, I think.
So we got 83% of Americans, and so Americans know that something's wrong, but the government tramples on our constitutional rights. We're all getting spied on by the NSA. The government enacts bills that make the rich richer and the poor poorer. I mean, the plague. I mean, look at how many people. It destroyed the entrepreneurial class.
Oh, yeah.
And no one, when the banks caused the meltdown in 2008, none of those dudes that caused that. I mean, they made millions and millions of dollars. None of those guys went to prison.
Yeah, and then they make money again making movies about it, telling you what happened.
And they were bailed out. With our money.
Yeah.
So Americans, we're at a kind of an impasse now where we can do something or we can just leave this cesspool to our children. And our children are just going to have to deal with it. That's where we're at now.
The one thing I think about is, like, when you do all this research, you obviously know who the bad guys are. Like, you're very well versed in the bad guys. Who are the good guys?
EpsteinJustice.com.
Yeah.
There's some good guys. We've been in contact with a congressman that knows all about this. He knows that all his colleagues are blackmailed. And
that's got to be so weird to walk in the room and just be like, dude, you guys are fucked. Yeah. Like, you're all fucked. I know you're fucked. You're horny as fuck.
And we have to, as Americans, if we're going to do what's right, I mean, but not only for ourselves, but for our children and our children's children. someone graduating from college today could not afford to buy a home.
Oh, it's fried. I saw this thing that
So
was like they broke down like the cost of everything in 1997, and like the pay has not gone. At least in construction, the pay has not gone up that much. But like how cheap everything was in '97, it's fucking nuts. It's good. Like average house price is $127.
I've got a friend of mine grew up in the Village, and his family had a brownstone. His dad was
paid for life.
Journalist for the New York Times. His mom was a school teacher, and they had a brownstone. And then my buddy noticed that it was up for sale, and he saw a real estate agent walking into it, and he said to the real estate agent, I grew up in this house. Do you mind if I look at it? And she said, sure, come on in. And it was for sale for $10 million.
Holy shit.
Now, there's no way a New York Times journalist and a school teacher could afford that house today.
Yeah,
I mean,
no way.
that's how screwy it's gotten. No kids. I mean, I got to say one thing. I don't vote for Democrats or Republicans, but at least Biden gave some people student debt relief. I mean, that was very predatory lending. My interest rates on my student loans were 8%, man.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
I don't even want to talk about it because I just told them to go fuck themselves.
I don't know that.
when you want to go to college, and I went to graduate
I told them
school.
that it was their fault for lending me the money. They would call me and harass me every day, and I was like, dude, I was going to art school and I was 27. You gave me 8 G's. That's on you.
Yeah, it is wild. Like, do you just from seeing what's going on now with like all like the protests and like how stuff's like, it always seems like around every election cycle to like ramp up. Do you think like there's a play at hand, or like can you see from like everything you've looked into, can like you see them trying to fuck with us mentally in order to get us into some like weird position to get compromised or like to vote for someone or get tricked?
Sometimes
I look
we
at
feel like we get tricked.
these student protests, I think, are a good thing in the respect that it shows that these kids that are fixated on their telephones can actually be less than apathetic or more than apathetic and actually do something.
This is recess.
So that is good in and of itself.
That's good, but it's so weird that it's like, dude, this has been going on for a while, and you guys are just hip to this. Like, you're just picking up on this.
I think they've been primed to spaz.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, better late than never.
True,
I mean, because I was talking to someone about it this morning, and she said, well, I mean, what they're doing is kind of, isn't the best thing. I mean, both sides. And I said, well, at least it shows that the kids today can care.
Yeah, it would have been scarier if there was nothing.
And we've had nothing for a long time.
Yeah.
We had...
2020 was a little weird.
What's that?
2020 got a little weird.
Well, we had some of that on January 6th. And prior to that, we had that protest against Wall Street.
Oh, yeah. I remember that one, yeah.
Yeah, those people all turned around and told us to stay inside after 2020. So that's what just confuses me, where it's like, that'll happen. Like, the stuff in 2008 will happen, and those same people will plaster their front yards with signs and stuff and say, believe in the government, and take whatever they say, take it at face value. Because I feel like these people are going to do this in like 10 years from now, like 20,
they'll grow
30.
up. Yeah, they'll change. Yeah,
I'm just
People
weirded
change.
out by it. Like, the whole thing freaks me out. And like every 4 years, this shit happens, and it's a roller coaster that just rips people apart for no reason. And then you forget about all the Epstein victims and stuff because you see like all this stuff getting covered on the news.
Do you think Epstein justice will take like decades?
No, I think we can pull it off in a couple of years.
Okay, cool.
But here's the thing about Epstein justice. Americans have been divided and conquered. Mm-hmm. The right looks at the left as mentally ill, and the left looks at the right as mentally ill.
Yeah.
This is the one issue. There's only one issue that can bring them together, and that's children shouldn't be molested with impunity, and the government
They're
shouldn't.
trying to make that
again. I will say the left.
Yeah, they're trying to make that like with the like you have to be going nuts when you see people try to like they're called minor attracted people. Like, don't be disrespectful. Like they're trying to throw that out.
What do you think about all that propaganda?
Here's the thing. the woke, the far left of the woke, or what's considered the woke, they're crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, they're
in
crazy.
shambles.
But then the far right with the QAnon, they're crazy too.
Yeah.
But here's the thing.
You have to be able to get out of that line of thinking.
But here's the thing. The vast majority of people on the left are not that crazy. So, but the right looks at them as crazy. And then the left looks at the right as crazy because of QAnon.
Yeah.
It's divide and conquer. It's been going on forever.
Yeah, I deal with this because I have like a group chat of my friends, or a lot of them are like right leaning, like they love Mitch McConnell and stuff, and they'll freak out at me like I'm like green haired liberal. I was like, dude, I'm not. I'm just like taking myself out of political parties and seeing what makes the most sense. Because if you sit there and just vote on party lines, like you're gonna fuck yourself in the end.
Yeah, Bill has friends that are like young Republicans. They have like young Republicans.
Mitch McConnell, man. I mean,
it's so weird.
Oh yeah, but like they also got vaccinated. Like it is a mind fuck.
I think Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell have something in common, and you guys can figure out what that is.
Sweet boys, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, you've done all the research. There's a good chance that almost every politician, like that's what weirds me out about people who sit there and like look up to them, where it's like, dude, like these people are fucking scumbags.
You know, it's kind of weird. The majority of Americans don't believe that the media is telling us the truth.
Yeah.
But yet they believe what they want to believe.
There's this thing that me and my buddy were talking about. Michael Croy made it up called the Gelman man amnesia. So it's like if you know about something and you read it in the paper, you'll be like, that's bullshit. But then you keep reading the paper and you're like, oh, that's what happened.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, if you really know about something, you know it's fucking fake.
Yeah, I don't really trust.
There's this guy on Instagram called Idaho Painter, and the stuff he does, I'm like, dude, this is bullshit. And all the comments are this.
Yeah.
But they keep pushing it.
I mean,
it's unwarranted.
Evil.
I'm sorry.
Evil has all the money, that's for sure. I mean, and that's what we're trying to do with Epstein Justice, is we're trying to get enough money. We don't need all the money that evil needs.
Yeah.
But we need money. And if we're going to pull off what we're going to pull off. So we're fundraising now, and that's very important to us, is because we're going to need people that are savvy with the media. And we've got some people that want to help us. So, I mean, we've got to do this. I feel that we have to do this because if things aren't fixed now, the wealth polarization is just going. I mean, the wealth polarization is just accelerated.
It's insane,
and especially during the plague. I mean, the plague has exacerbated it. And if we, and the NSA captures everything. I mean, they built that monstrosity in Utah to put all our data there. I mean, I've had Bill Binney on my podcast, and he's the guy that thought it all up. I mean, he's a legend, and he says that they can capture everything.
And then is there like a search engine for that, or like would they go by name? Like, did Benny get into any of that?
Do you think you could hook us up with him?
What's that?
No? Do you think you could hook us up with him?
I'll see. Yeah.
I would be afraid to talk to him. Those guys freak me out because that goes back to all the backdoor software type shit that freaks me out.
Stuff,
yeah.
But he's a good guy. I mean, that's why he got booted out of.
He's one of the good ones.
He got booted out of the NSA, and at one point, the FBI broke down his door and held a gun to his head when he was in his towel. You know, I mean, it was he had just gotten out of the shower. So he's taking a lot of heat. But yeah, check out my podcast with him, and then I'll be more than happy to hook you up.
All right, cool.
What's like for the Epstein Justice? Like we put EpsteinJustice.com on all of our.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that.
But like, is there any other thing that's like? Is there like, I don't know, like a meetup or something coming up where like
we've had one protest, and we learned a lot from that protest that we need to stack the odds in our favor with more money.
Right,
and we learned that. And this is kind of a learning curve for us. We learned that you need money to do a protest well. I mean, we put on a good protest, and it was received well. But if we'd had more money, we could have had a lot more people there. We could have had a lot more.
You got to pay to get eyes on it. Is that what it is?
I think most people pay George Soros, and their protests go pretty good.
No.
Unfortunately, we're not working for George Soros.
Is Peter Soros related to him?
What's that?
Is Peter Soros related to him?
And this is an interesting point. Peter Soros is his nephew.
Okay.
And Damian Williams, who we were talking about earlier, the U.S. attorney that covered up Epstein and Maxwell and is now going to cover up P. Diddy. Okay, his parents have a fund that gives money to new Americans. And Damian Williams' parents are from Jamaica. So they gave him $90,000 to go to Yale Law School. Now, Peter Soros is circled in Epstein's black book twice.
That means he did
twice.
Stuff.
Yeah, that
if you're
means
circled.
that's very incriminating.
Yeah.
So is that, I mean, that could just be a very bizarre coincidence, or it could be something pretty ominous. I don't know.
Yeah, right. So. All right, well, is that it?
Yeah, I think we're good there.
I don't want to take up too much time.
Any other stuff coming up, Nick, or
I'm
just buy the book?
I'm kind of little talked out at this point,
Yeah.
but I'll mail it in if I can think of anything.
Give us a heads up for the protest. We'll see if we
Okay,
get ahead
absolutely.
Get activated.
Absolutely. We are going to have some protests, and they're going to be
epic.
Yes,
biblical.
They're going to be epic.
Yeah, we'll push it whenever it is again, Nick. Thanks.
Yes.
You're the man.
Well, I want to thank you guys for
thank you, man.
for propagating Epstein justice.
Thank you for the truth about Watergate. This is a great book.
Please buy that. Thanks.